All right, great. Thank you so much. It is a true pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this class for the last few months since it was originally set up. I am a professional origami guy, if you could believe that such a thing exists. I teach origami like I'm going to do today, and I'm an origami artist. Those are some of my pieces on the wall behind me. I'm actually in my origami studio right now out in Oberlin, Ohio. And I also run an online paper store that sells books and paper for origami, origamishop.us. But one of the things that I love to do the most with origami is to teach it and share it with others. And this is another reason this is a cool experience for me too, is that I love libraries so much. I actually serve on the board of our Oberlin Public Library here in town. And just recently, in the last few months, I've actually been exploring some different origami book models. So today we are going to fold an origami book. But what's really cool about this book is that it actually is a transformation. We're actually going to fold a box, and we're going to transform the box into a book. And then I can show you how you can fold another box that your tiny book will fit into. Okay, so here, I'm gonna switch views here. Now, what's really cool about my setup here now is that I've got an overhead view right here. So we're looking down here at my table, and this is today's project. We are going to fold, here, oh yeah, it's this one. We're gonna fold some tiny boxes that contain tiny books. And once we're done with that, I'm then going to show you some other cool origami books. Well, actually, another origami book model. And then I'm going to show you some artist books that my good friend, Amy Fishback, who is a Cleveland-based artist, my good friend Amy Fishback made these books and gifted them to me. And I'd love to share them with you because they do involve some origami elements. So here, let me get some of this out of the way. For today's lesson, you will need, check this out, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which is a letter size sheet of paper. And I want you to orient your paper like so. And you know what? My camera is slightly askew. This could be a bad idea, but I'm gonna try and kind of adjust this. I'm kind of noticing it now, kind of bugging me. Okay, well, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it totally unskewed here. Okay. Sorry about that, y'all. All right. There we go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna alter our 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. We're gonna turn it into a square. Okay, because a lot of origami starts with a square. Not all origami, but there's a nifty way to do that, and some of you might already know this trick. But what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the bottom edge of our rectangle here, the short edge, and we're gonna bring it up to meet the vertical edge over here. And the goal is to align that short edge as perfectly as we can all the way down to the corner. And when I make my fold, I usually don't commit to it all at once. I kind of ease it into place. And you see I kind of like gently kind of rub my finger over the corner, and you kind of want to hold before you fold. That's my saying I love to use. And there we go. So now that we have this shape, I want you to rotate the model a quarter turn. And if you happen to have a writing utensil nearby, that would probably be good. You don't necessarily need one, but what we want to eventually do is remove this strip of paper, because over here, this triangle folded in half, that gives us a square. Okay, so one way that we can do this is if we get a pen and we put a couple of, we put a couple of notch marks on each end. Now we could, draw a line connecting those, but we don't necessarily have to do that. You don't have to draw a line all the way across. Also, we're going to remove this paper without actually using scissors. Okay, so if I unfold the paper, there we are, and you see we need to make a line, but we're going to make a crease. And so to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip the paper over front to back, like so. And I've got the crease part on the top, and you can barely see it. I've got my little notch marks on the underside of the paper here. I'm going to take that short edge at the bottom, and I'm going to fold up. And in fact, I'm going to turn the paper a little bit more this way because it's a little bit easier to make the fold. But I'm going to kind of gradually create the crease, being careful to connect this notch with the other notch. But I'm also going to make sure that the little flap on the top aligns with the long edge at the top. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about making it totally perfect. There we go. Now we want to make a nice sharp crease. I'm using my thumbnail to make the crease. Now you can use the edge, but you can also use the back of your thumb. Maybe your nails aren't very long, but it's okay. If you can kind of turn your thumb over, and it can be a little awkward to go all the way down. So maybe I'll turn the paper a little bit. Okay, so that gives us a crease, but we want to reverse that crease now. So let's unfold the paper, and we're going to use that exact same crease that we just made, and we're going to reverse it. And by the way, while we're here, when I've opened the paper here, we call this type of fold a valley fold because it's going into the paper, right? It's like a valley between two hills. If I flip the paper over, this is a mountain fold. Okay, any fold that's kind of where the paper is kind of going back and creating this edge, we call that a mountain fold. So we're going to take that mountain fold, we're going to reverse it into a valley fold. We haven't made a new crease, we just flipped it back over. I'm running my thumbnail along that again, make sure it's nice and sharp. Now, another thing you could use if you've got like a marker or a pencil or pen with a uniform edge, you can use that edge as a creasing tool. In origami, we use tools called bone folders. But you don't necessarily need a bone folder. You can just use a pen like this. All right, I've reversed the crease. I've made it sharp. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go back to the original position. I'm just going to keep going back and forth. And you probably get the idea here. By folding it back and forth all these times, we are weakening the paper along that crease. Once I've done it, this is the fourth time here, the paper should be weak enough. And you might be surprised by how well this thing tears. But here's what you want to do. You want to make sure you kind of anchor the paper with one hand and hold it where you're tearing it. And you're going to gradually, just little by little, don't tear all at once because you want to move your hand down the paper as you are tearing it. So I just go do, 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 and look at that. It just tears right along the crease. Now, it might take a few tries to get this, to tear perfectly. Don't worry, just do your best. And if you need to grab your scissors, that's okay. The reason I don't like to use scissors is because scissors don't really give you a straight line. If you've ever tried to cut a straight line with a pair of scissors, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's really challenging to do. So using that crease gives us a straight line, and we just tear right along the straight line. Okay, and so that gives us our square. And I want you to orient your square so that the crease is running up and down the center of the paper. Okay, so it's kind of like we've opened a book. It doesn't look like a book, it looks more like a taco if you ask me. But anyway, we open up our paper. We've got our crease running up and down the center. And we're going to take the bottom corner of our square and fold it up to meet the top corner. Notice I'm folding bottom to the top, folding up and away from myself. And that's going to be a common theme during this lesson. And generally speaking, whenever I teach and whenever I fold, I generally like to fold up and away from myself. Okay, so once we've folded that in half, we're going to go ahead and unfold it again. And now we have two valley creases going through the diagonals of the square. Now, we're going to take our paper and we're going to flip it over front to back. You see that symbol I used there? Typically in origami, if you see that looping symbol with an arrow, that means you flip it over front to back. And I want you to orient your paper so that it looks like this now. And let me see here. I'm going to, let me do something real quick. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so now we've got two mountain folds. They were valleys, but we flipped the paper over, so we want to make sure we're looking at the mountain fold side of the paper. And from here, we're now going to take the bottom edge of our square and we're going to fold it up to the top edge. Bottom edge up to the top edge. We hold before we fold. And I generally like to make my crease by coming down the middle and then going out to the two sides. All right. So then, let's see here. We want to unfold the paper back to here. And now we're going to give our paper a quarter turn. We're 90 degrees. So we're going to turn the paper so it does look like we are reading a book now. And in fact, in origami, we call this a book fold. How appropriate, both for the origami and for today's lesson. Okay, so we've got a book fold. So I want everyone to open your books to page 2. That's my joke. Anyway, so now we're going to take the bottom edge of our book and we're going to fold it up to the top edge of our book for a second book fold. Okay, now we're going to take a tiny little detour here because I want to show you some stuff. What's pretty cool about the creases that we've just made in the paper is that this gives us all the creases. I push this paper together. Look at that. This is a very classic, when I say very classic, this is a very common classic origami base known as a square base or a preliminary base. If you've ever folded a traditional paper crane, you start out with this form. This is the form that we use to get the bird base, okay? Now what's funny is that we're not actually even gonna use this base for this model today, but I thought I would go on and show you that, I mean, heck, why not? Because once you know how to fold the preliminary base, you can fold lots of other origami models. And I know it's very basic, haha, but it's good to know. Now watch this. This is actually 2 bases for the price of 1. Okay, check this out. Open up the paper. You can do this if you want, right here. So if you push in the center, there's a point at which the paper kind of pops up. The center point inverts a little bit. And so now I can kind of do that same thing where I gathered all the layers together. And if I collapse it like this, look at that. Now our base has turned into a triangle base. It's like magic. Like, how did it do that? It's just using the exact same creases that we had before. And the name for this base is the Waterbomb Base. If you've ever folded the little traditional Japanese kind of balloon, you blow air into it. That's the water bomb, and it's made from this base, okay? So, but we don't want to use Waterbomb Base. Like I said, we're taking a little detour here, but we're going to get back to where we started here. So I want you to take, if you've created the Waterbomb Base, we got to get back to our square base. So let's do the same thing we did before. You can invert the center, and this is kind of a cool little motion, how the paper jumps up like that. But then we want to go ahead and close it up. And then we can go ahead and, oh, well, so actually we're not using the preliminary base here. what am I saying? But if we get back to the preliminary base, okay, I want you to just kind of gently open up the paper, and I want you to return to your book form, the original book form, okay? If you get back to the book form, that's gonna get us ready for our next step. And I want you to orient your paper so that the creased edge is on the top. So you'll have the diagonal lines going up, and looking like a mountain. And the next thing we're gonna do a series of folds that are known as a Blintz fold, but we're gonna do them in a slightly different way. Now, I'll just say this, a Blintz fold is when you fold all 4 corners of the square to the center. But we're gonna fold our Blintz fold while our paper is in the form of a book fold. Hope I'm not throwing too much at you all at once. But here, for the next step, we're gonna take the outside corners here, and we're going to bring it up so that this edge meets the crease at the top. And we want to kind of make sure we have a nice corner here. And so we make a fold, bringing that one corner to what is actually the center of the sheet of paper. It's the center of this edge, okay? So once we do that, let's do the other side, the left side. Right and left sides, we're bringing the point up, and feel free, you know, if you need to move your paper around to make a better fold, you may. But one of the benefits of folding our Blintz fold like this is that by folding to the creased edge, well, A, it's just a little bit easier to fold to a creased edge, but B, it prevents us from folding a little too far on these two ends. And don't worry, you know, I've got a little gap here. I'll tell you, my square was not perfectly square when I tore the edge off. It doesn't matter. It's a very forgiving model. Okay, so once we've done that corner, here we are. We're now going to flip the paper over front to back. All right, so there we go. Flipped it over. We're back on this side, and then we're going to repeat the same 2 steps that we did before, folding one corner up and finally folding the other corner up. Okay, and I've definitely got a gap going on in the middle. Big deal. Okay, and so now, so this paper is folded in half into a triangle. We're just going to unfold that triangle, but we want to make sure that the flaps are still on the top. So here we are. Boom. We have a Blintz fold, B-L-I-N-T-Z, just like the pastry. I do avoid talking about food during my lessons because I do get really hungry when I teach, generally speaking. So let's move on from this Blintz fold. But like I said, all 4 corners have been folded to the center of the square. Okay, so that was just a slightly different approach to folding a Blintz fold, which in my opinion kind of helps improve your accuracy. Okay, now we've got our Blintz fold. All the flaps are on the top layer. All right, for the next step, we're going to take the bottom edge of our folded Blintz, and we want to bring it up to meet the crease line, the midline that goes across the center. Oh, we bring that bottom edge up like so. And that's what we get. Okay, now we want to spin the model around. When you see that symbol with the 2 arrows, generally that means we're going to rotate 180 degrees or a half turn. Okay, so there we are. And then we're going to repeat that last step, taking the bottom edge up to the center once again. And you have to kind of grab those layers, make sure they stay together. All right, now let's take our model and let's rotate it 90 degrees. And in origami, We sometimes refer to this type of formation as a cupboard fold, for good reason too. It's like we've got two cupboard doors. Pretty nice. Now we want to open our cupboard doors like so. And you'll notice that when you open your cupboard doors, you've got these two tabs that are wanting to kind of stick out. Well, that's pretty handy because we want to actually take those and we want to open the paper up all the way, whoop, like so. All right. So it's kind of like, you know, it's like our Blintz, but two opposite flaps are folded out. And then now we're going to do something that's like kind of similar to another cupboard fold, where we take the bottom edge of our paper, make sure you kind of grab these two layers, hold them together, and you fold that edge up to the center line. That's what we get. And we want to, it's a cupboard fold, so we got to do the same thing on the other side. So let's flip the model, not flip the model, excuse me, I should say rotate. Rotate, we're just spinning it around here. And we're going to repeat taking that bottom edge up to the center line. Like so. And we are nearing the finish line. We're almost done. Okay, so let's spin this around 90 degrees, like so. And now we are ready to form our first box. All right. So let me see here. I need to, here, I'm going to jump back. Here, I got to change views here. Sorry, my little bubbles moving around. All right. So anyhow, what's really cool is that we've put all the creases that we need in the paper to collapse the model. And we don't really need to reverse anything else at this point. But I want you to lift these two flaps up, kind of like they're the sides of a box. Now these two little points on the side, you do want to make sure that they kind of stay down here. And by the way, I will point out, and I'm going to use my cool little origami pointing tool, my origami pencil. I will point out that the base of the box is this square right here. And these two triangles, you know, they kind of fill in two halves, or excuse me, 2/4 is what I meant to say, of the base of the box. And so eventually these other corners are also going to fit right in. It's like a puzzle. And the puzzle will just fall right into place because look here. If you kind of lift this flap up and just use the base of the box as a guide, that's where the sort of the hinge is. And you can actually do this with both sides at once. You see how you just kind of push those together and all the creases, the little diagonal creases here, just kind of make this come together. Now, you want to kind of pinch some of these layers together. We're just gonna, let's just do one flap at a time. But as I flip this up, then I've got a flap here that I'm gonna wrap around the side of the box. And you see how that tab, that corner, that flap fits right in, just like a puzzle piece, like I said it would. Okay, well, that's one side. Spin it around. And let's do the other side. Same way. Kind of wrap that around. And there it is. Now, I meant to create like a little slide for this, but I didn't. But that's okay, because I'm just going to write it down. So this model that we just folded is known as a Masu Box. And this is like an old school Japanese model. It's thought of as a traditional model, been around forever. And you can go out there online and find all sorts of different versions of diagrams and other videos. So like maybe you want, like, I forgot how to fold the Masu Box. Well, you can find it pretty easily. if you look for the Masu Box, okay? Now, it took me, it was years before I learned that the Masu Box can also be transformed into a cool little book, a cute little book at that, all right? One thing I will mention real quick, oh, I didn't grab it, but sometimes when I'm making these boxes and if I'm gonna use them as an actual box, I will put a little bit of glue underneath these four corners down here, okay? Not crucial, and if we're gonna turn this into a book, which is what I'm about to show you how to do, it's probably not a good idea to glue them in because once you glue the flaps in, then the paper can't shift around as it needs to when we do the collapse. So anyway, just kind of do your best to make sure those four flaps are kind of staying down in there, okay? So if you flip it over to the bottom of the box, now we see we've got these creases. It's the same crease formation as our original square of paper. And remember how we were able to make the Waterbomb base, that little triangle base? Well, we're basically gonna make a little inverted Waterbomb base, but in origami, we would actually refer to this as a open sink, a sink. We're literally gonna sink the center of the square using these creases to collapse all the paper down. So all the creases are there, we're ready to go. It's just really handy. It's really easy to do this. So we want to push in while we squeeze. See how I'm kind of pushing the four sides of the box in? So as you push that in and squeeze, you go all the way. Don't be afraid, just kind of collapse it down as best as you can. That collapses our box. And then to make it into a book, you want to take two sides that were sort of going to be the cover. Now, I want to point out that because all of the layers of paper are kind of like wrapping around each other, that they all need to kind of shift around and kind of reestablish themselves. So see what happens as I start to close the book. I have this kind of bunching pocket right here. Well, it's okay because watch this. This is really satisfying and cool to do. You just take the whole thing and you just give it a good pinch. So satisfying. Just kind of pinch that and pinch along the spine. You will feel the layers kind of shifting around and readjusting themselves. You get a little squeeze. And there is your tiny book. How cool is that? Now, another thing that I wanted to do for today's class, but I just kind of ran out of time. I wanted to make little sort of parody books because I'm thinking, okay, well, what are some of my favorite books? And I was like, I know, it'd be cool to make little tiny, super abridged versions, abridged meaning condensed, shortened, like the Reader's Digest version, shortened versions of some notable books. So I've got some ideas of like what I think I'm gonna do. But it would be really cool to see if some of you come up with your own book ideas for your little tiny books and share them and post them. Or you can send them my way. At the end of the lesson, I'm gonna give you some leads on how to reach me, how to find me online. Now, we just folded a book. Now I want to show you a trick for making a box that is perfectly sized for your book. Because you might remember the book that we just made came from a box that's a bit bigger than this design, the colored box I have here. Here's what you can do. Take another letter-sized sheet of paper. And for this one, start by folding it in half, short edge to short edge. And we want to divide the paper. We want to separate the two halves. So I'm going to use the same method. You could use a pair of scissors if you want, but I love this tearing method. You just keep flipping it back and forth. Just keep reversing the creases. And I'd say about 4 or 5 times does the trick. Maybe if you got a marker, you could really make that a nice sharp crease. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna tear the paper in half. And now you treat each of these like we did the original sheet that we tore. You move one of these out of the way. You can do this trick with any rectangle because you're just bringing a short edge over to the long edge so that you can make that long edge the same length as your short edge, because a square has 4 equal sides. Okay, use my trusty pen so I can make a couple of notch marks. You can skip the notch marks too by, like you could make a crease. You could go ahead and make your crease this way. Maybe I'll just do that. And that way you can make a crease that pretty closely follows the edge of your triangle flap. So yeah, so you don't actually even need to make marks. It's another trick. No rulers or scissors needed. But here we go, do the same thing, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, now, of course, you would do the same thing with your other small rectangle, smaller rectangle. By the way, you can even make tiny squares out of the what do they call it? Offcuts. Anyways, off of the scraps of the rectangles that you tear, you can turn those into squares too. Here, I'll do the same thing here, where I kind of, without making any marks, I just kind of roll the paper. Okay, now, maybe let's walk through the Masu box one more time of one of these smaller sheets. And I want to show you, I'm actually gonna show you how you would make the lid of your box. Because here's the thing, check this out. In order to have a lid that fits over the box, the base has to be a little smaller than the lid, or the lid has to be a little bigger than the base. And if I separate these two, you can kind of see that one is a little bit smaller than the other. So I'm going to show you how to make the lid, because you want to make the lid just a little bit bigger. But everything else in the sequence is basically the same, okay? So we'll walk through this again. We've got our crease in the middle, running up and down. It's a valley crease. I'm going to fold in half, bottom corner to top corner. Excuse me, please. And then unfold. And then we flip the model over front to back. And then we fold the bottom edge up to the top edge to make a book fold. Open that up. Rotate the paper 90 degrees, so it's 1/4 turn. So it's like you're opening a book, and you're going to take the bottom edge up to the top. Now this time, we don't need to play around with the preliminary base or the square base or anything like that. So we'll just leave it folded in half, and we'll spin it around. And we're going to take one corner up, like so. And then same on the other bottom corner. Then you're going to flip it over, front to back, and then repeat. Corner, short edge up to the creased edge. And one more time. Here we go. Now we open up the diagonal fold. So we're not opening the whole paper, we're just unfolding the diagonal so that we're here. We got our Blintz Fold going on here. And we're gonna, oh, okay. So this, I should pause because this is where we are going to change it up a little bit. And I'm sorry, I don't have diagrams that reflect how we fold this lid, but what I am gonna do is zoom in a little bit. Okay, so, oops, sorry, I'm zooming in on the wrong camera. Here we go. Okay, okay, so here we go. I've zoomed in, and maybe zoom in just a little bit more. Now, before we did a cupboard fold where we brought the edge all the way to the center line. For the lid, you want to go a little short of the center line. And there isn't an exact distance, but you can kind of see there about how much of a gap I left. So you just have to kind of eyeball it and hope that you get it right, honestly. Once you've done it a few times, you kind of get the hang of it. All right, but now we are going to do the same thing over here. And let me just switch to my overhead again, zooming in again. I'm so sorry about this. There we go. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to leave the same amount of gap on this other cupboard door. And you see how they are both kind of evenly spaced from the center? Okay. Then from here, we're going to continue on like we did before, where we open the cupboard doors and then we pull out these two tabs. And remember that gap that we just left? We're gonna do it again when we do this step. We're gonna take that creased edge up towards the center, and you wanna leave the same distance. You have to kind of eyeball it. However, if you pay attention to this diagonal, and then this vertical line, I'm sorry, it's not like a kind of sloppy couple of lines. You know, actually I'm using the wrong marker. That's what this one's for. Let me just go over this again. So when you're making this fold, where those two creases meet, that should be the edge of your new flap. And that'll give you that same gap that you left before. Do it again, we're gonna spin it around. Same thing, here we go. Bringing it up. And if you look to those two creases down there, those diagonals, and see where they hit, where they intersect these vertical creases is where you want to collapse or make your second fold here. He looks like an anime character now. He's like smiling. Got one couple of teeth, one big bottom tooth. Okay, anyway. Now we form the box by lifting up the walls, pushing the points in the center. And then we look at the base inside the square here. We're gonna flip this up like so. And then from here, we're going to wrap this flap in and around one side of the box, and that corner, no, it's kind of washed out there, sorry. Corner ends up there, and then do the same thing over here. I'm gonna flip this up and over and in. And that will give you a lid. And then when you fold your base, you would fold the base exactly like we folded the book. Same thing. I might even just go through it super duper quick. I don't know. See, the thing is, I've already done it twice. Do I really need to do it a third time? Well, anyway, just to get you started, just be sure that you've got, and what's nice is we've already got that one diagonal crease. We're going to use that crease anyway, so that's helpful. Make the other diagonal. Okay, I'm just going to zoom through this. Open it up, flip it over. 2 book folds. Book fold 1, open your book. Book fold 2, leave the book closed, spin it around so that we can take the loose corner here and fold that up to the top edge, like so. Same thing on the left side. Flip it over, front to back, corner up, last corner up. That is a Blintz Fold. We open our square to our Blintz Fold. Now, normal, okay? When we do our covered fold on our Blintz Fold, we fold the edge all the way to the center. Looks like an envelope. Do the same thing on the opposite side. Make our covered fold. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry here. Let's open the cupboard. Open it up. Grab these corners, pull them out. And then bottom edge to the line. Spin it around. Other bottom edge. Well, it's the opposite edge. To the middle. And then our box will form oh so nicely by bringing the walls up. And looky here, it'll just collapse beautifully. You just wrap each flap around and inside, and it helps to give it a good pinch around the rim of the box. I don't think I mentioned that before. So we wrap that around and kind of pinch it, and that'll help kind of reestablish that crease a little bit. And so now I have a base, and let's see if it worked. Because if you make them the exact same size, because they're not going to fit together, but oh, it's a tight fit. It's a pretty snug fit. It's kind of nice. I would almost rather it be a little snug than be too loose. But if it's too snug, then it's like, oh. So yeah, sometimes you have to do a little bit of trial and error when figuring out how much of a gap to leave for your lid. But as I mentioned before, your tiny book will fit into the box. Of course, it's going to want to kind of open up a little bit. So maybe it's good that it's a snug fit for the lid. And of course, you can decorate your paper in infinitely many ways. It is a little bit hard to color or to draw on like the 3-dimensional box. So what you might do is just kind of figure out which faces are showing, and you can unfold the paper and kind of get it back to a flat formation. And that makes it a little bit easier to do your decorative and design work. Now I want to show you this other origami book. This is a totally different origami book that I've been obsessed with here recently. Now these are folded out of traditional origami paper that have a color on one side and white on the other. But here's another book, but this one has 6 pages. Or, well, let's see. It's got like 6-page flaps, but I guess it gives it 12 pages. But anyway, this book was designed by a notable origami designer by the name of David Brill. And this appears in one of his popular books, Brilliant Origami. Get it? David Brill, Brilliant Origami. And whenever I fold this book, I'm always like, it's brilliant. He's British, by the way. So yeah, I just wanted to share those with you because, like I said, I've been obsessed with making these. This came from a 7-inch square, so they shrink down quite a bit. Now, finally, the last thing I want to show are these artist books that my good friend Amy Fishback made. Amy Fishback is a Cleveland-based artist. Who knows? Amy might even be watching this right now. I kind of doubt it, but maybe one of you knows Amy. Amy loves miniature books. In fact, she is part of the Miniature Book Society. She goes to miniature book conventions and conferences. And she also happened to be one of my private students a few years back. And she gifted me these amazing artist books that she made. And what's really cool is that she actually folded origami boxes to hold her books, which is kind of why I wanted to teach you this lesson today. So we'll look at each of these. Now the books themselves are very different from what we made, but we'll just do one at a time. So the base of this box, this is a Masu box, just like the one we made. The Masu box is perfect for little mini books. Now the lid, this is a totally different model. This is a 4-piece modular box. There's like a million box designs out there. But this book, actually it even has a companion. Here she has depicted all of these different art movements from art history, like abstract expressionism, Art Nouveau, Baroque, Bauhaus, and it just goes on and on. Cubism, Dada, Expressionism, Impressionism, International Gothic. Oh, it just goes on and on. These are amazing. Now this is an accordion book. And I believe she did the illustrations by hand with ink and watercolor. And then she, I think using either scanner, computer, copier, whatever combination, printer, she then printed out the images so then they could be made into this super cute, super awesome book. Now, that doesn't inspire you. I don't know what will. I felt so honored that she gifted me this book. I mean, it's quite a treasure. Here's another one that she made. Celebrate Small, a mini artist's book. This has this little kind of sleeve. This Masu box, another Masu box with the lid folded just a little bit bigger than the base. This is folded out of some amazing washi, Japanese washi paper, beautiful indigo. Okay, so this is another accordion book. The theme of this one's a little different. So this one is just like this indicates, celebrate small. So what she has done is she, again, made these tiny illustrations. Let's go through this. Like ukulele, espresso, tiny trailer, nope. Matryoshka, I'm probably saying that wrong, forgive me. Tiny scissors, a soap tub. Ooh, I love this one. The nib, shabti, again, maybe mispronouncing, clove of garlic, a possum baby, ah, cute. A seal, like an ink seal stamp, coin, a tent, little radio, moped, sushi. Uh-oh, here we go. I'm getting hungry again. And a stamp. And finally, the caboose, a tiny caboose at the end. Oh, I just love these. I get so much joy out of looking at them. And that is why I wanted to share them with you today. So we're kind of wrapping up here. Now, if you want to find me online, here are some different ways that you can track me down. So my website is foldspacesstudio.com. Find lots of cool stuff there. If you're on Instagram, you can follow me at mr.jamespeak. It's my handle. It's all origami. A lot of cool stuff on there, if I may say so myself. I also stream, I do these live stream classes on Facebook on my Fold Space Origami Studio Facebook page, on average 3 times a week, usually Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So I'll be on Facebook tomorrow at 1 p.m. And finally, I just started up a YouTube channel a few weeks ago. And I've actually, you can go check it out. I've got this origami beach party lesson series that I did for the Amherst Public Library. And it's six separate videos, all beachy models. And in fact, that stingray on there is my own original design. Now, I'm not much of an origami designer, but I'm very proud of this origami stingray that I designed. It's number 6 in the 6-part series, but you can learn a crab, a t-shirt, or it's like a collared shirt. It's more that's not really a t-shirt. It's like a Hawaiian shirt. An angelfish, a boat, a carp banner, and the stingray. So check those out. The Fold Space Origami Studio YouTube channel. It's pretty easy to find all of these. You just have to search on the different platforms for Fold Space Origami Studio. Or if you're on Instagram, it's at mr.jamespeak. So thank you so much for folding with me today. It's been a true honor. If you've got any further interests or questions about origami, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me at james@foldspacesstudio.com. And thank you to the Cleveland Public Library and the Center for Arts Inspired Learning for bringing this all together. So you all have a good rest of your week.
At my house, we created a box. So my daughter is looking forward to decorating her box. So thank you so much. We will be back next week with Center for Arts Inspired Learning, Make a Change Monday. And also we have programs going on for the rest of this week. So tune in to the Cleveland Public Library Facebook Live page for more awesome programming. Thank you so much. Remember to register for Summer Lit League at cpl.beanstack.org. And if you created origami or any of the crafts that we've been doing online, please post it online and hashtag CLE Summer Lit League. We want to see your work. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.